Now, Lowcountry Forever, a public affairs presentation of the Charleston Radio Group.
The U.S. Census data is out, and South Carolina now with more than 5 million residents. Lots of growth in the Palmetto State, lots of growth here in the Lowcountry, and that's what we're talking about today on Lowcountry Forever. I'm Brian Cleary, joined by Doug Pullen, the Community Development Director for the town of Moncks Corner. Doug, Moncks Corner, certainly among the fastest growing regions here in the Lowcountry.
Absolutely. We haven't seen the new census numbers for the town yet, but I know we were around 8,000 10 years ago, and I'm sure that we are over 12,000 now. So at least 50% growth in the last 10 years.
I think it's funny because I know people here in the Lowcountry in Charleston, Mount Pleasant, West Ashley that would look at it and go, Moncks Corner, I've almost got to pack a bag. That's so far to go. And they haven't been to Moncks Corner in a while. They may very well be surprised at what they find.
Absolutely. I mean, I love living in Moncks Corner. And I tell everyone Moncks Corner is, to me, the place to be because, we are the Lowcountry's hometown. My job is to try to create or nurture quality growth in the area, but it really is about quality growth, and it's about maintaining that hometown atmosphere. We know that there's tons of people moving the Charleston area every day. They can go to Charleston North, Goose Creek, Somerville. We want them to want to come to Moncks Corner. And so that's why we try to inculcate this feeling. Even though we're growing, we are a small town. We've got lots of restaurants, got lots of stores, got lots of growth. Living here, I can do everything I want to do every night. But like tonight, I'm going to go to the North Charleston Arts Festival, half an hour down the road?
Right.
And so I can enjoy everything that Charleston has to offer on a 30-minute drive, but on the average evening, I'm home in 5 minutes. I don't have to spend an hour on the road. So I'm lucky to be able to work in Moncks Corner, but I'm blessed to be able to live here.
Would you say that's the most difficult part as you go forward now? Because obviously, as you said, the appeal, the charm of Moncks Corner is that small town feel. You want to grow. Is it possible to balance those two things?
I think it is possible to balance those two things. It's about proper planning. It's about knowing where you're going to be 20 years from now and really guiding towards what you want. I think a lot of times a town grows overnight and you never expected it. You were always this size, and then all of a sudden a big employer comes to town or something happens. And that's what we've seen in Charleston over the last 15, 20 years. When Boeing came, boom, it went from being this one area to something wildly different than what we all thought it was going to be. And I think it can really overwhelm a town. But for us, we're just far enough out that we've been able to see it on the horizon for years. It's coming. What do we have to do today to make sure that our town is livable, family friendly? It's just a great place to, live and work 10, 20, 50 years from now.
And as you build out that plan, where is the input coming from? Is that from other leaders? Is that from business people? Is that from citizens? What sources do you depend on to get feedback from?
All of the above. As a professional planner, my job is to be able to listen to all of those people and try to bring those people together. And actually, we're going to be working on our new 20-year plan. It'll be due next year. Okay. So sometime starting this summer, I'll be working with the local council of government out of North Charleston, putting together our newest physical paper plan. But in addition to what our official plan is, just the day-to-day, listening to the citizens, listening to elected officials, the businesses, talking to new businesses that we want to locate in town. Like, okay, if I'm talking to a business that isn't here, what would interest you in coming here? Obviously, there's that thing of, rooftops and median household income and how many people live within 20 minutes drive. But it's also the lifestyle stuff. Is a business going to move here if we don't have a good ball league for the kids to play in, if there's not a good church community for people for that side of their lives? And so it's important for us to have all of those things. And not just the sheer numbers that would say, a steakhouse will move here if we have these three metrics.
We're talking with Doug Pullen, the Community Development Director for the town of Moncks Corner. Moncks Corner, one of the growing places here in the Lowcountry. Doug, let's focus on a couple of specific things, maybe. The big impact things that have happened for Moncks Corner in a positive way. Can you talk about some of them over the past couple of years?
Sure. I think the biggest impact for us has been our downtown rec complex. I think a lot of downtowns, you're trying to find a hook. What are you? What is your community identity? And I would say for us, recreation. I think it really feeds into us being the Lowcountry's hometown. This spring, literally 10% of our town's population is playing ball.
Wow.
Spring football, soccer, baseball, softball. We have over 1,000 people signed up to do some, and that's adults and kids.
Okay.
So that's been huge. And I also work with the Main Street office here in town, trying to get people to come down to our historic downtown. And that's part of it. We've got hundreds of people out there every night experiencing Moncks Corner. And hopefully when they're done, they go to our restaurants, they go to our stores. So that's a huge deal for us. Obviously, just the general growth of the Lowcountry is the other huge driver. We have our internal driver and we have our external driver. People aren't moving to Moncks Corner because they're moving to Moncks Corner. They're moving to Charleston, and we recognize that. But 4,000 more people in the last 10 years, and it's my job to ensure that we have good quality residential developments for them, that they're not cookie cutter, they're not boring. We want neighborhoods that we're going to be proud of 20 years from now, and those builders have long since gone. We want commercial centers that people come to and say, wow, this is really nice. I didn't expect this up in Moncks Corner. So that's our job, is to make this place wonderful.
And it really seems like there's a family aspect to all this when we talk about development and want to have a nice neighborhoods, and then you talk about rec center. So it does seem that the Moncks Corner in that area there in Berkeley County is someplace that's really amenable on a family basis.
Absolutely. That's what drives us. We know that people have other places they can live. And I would never say anything bad about the other towns, but I enjoy visiting them. I like working in Moncks Corner and living here.
So was one of your biggest challenges in Moncks Corner, or at least bigger, about traffic? Folks that live in Charleston, Somerville spend a lot of time sitting on 26. As Moncks Corner grows, will there be more of a traffic issue?
Right now, today, we are still far enough out that it's not too bad in town. I will say at rush hour is definitely a lot of people who go down Highway 52 and Rivers Avenue towards Charleston. And so one of the planning efforts, I'm working with the local council of governments on a corridor study for Highway 52, trying to figure out literally everything that's going to be on 52 for the next 20 years. What is it zoned? What residential and commercial developments do we have lined up everywhere between the Tailrace Canal on the north side of our town down to University Avenue? And so I think that's like 20 miles. And so that's every planning agency in that region is looking at all of this stuff, trying to figure out, what are the transit numbers? Should there be bus stations or something like that up here? What needs to be done to ensure that we have the infrastructure necessary to keep the traffic flowing and make people say, Moncks Corner is a little bit further out, but it works for me, even though my job is downtown Charleston.
We're talking with Doug Pullen. He's the Director of Community Development in the town of Moncks Corner. Let me throw out a bad stereotype so that you can knock it down. But I think people think of Moncks Corner as, it's that town out there. Do they have internet out there? Is there Wi-Fi in Moncks Corner? You guys are so much farther along, I think, than maybe people who haven't been there give credit for.
Well, we're talking over Teams right now.
That's right.
Town hall, we were all at home this last spring like everyone else was, and we still managed to do all of our work from home with our high-speed internet and all of our fun stuff up here. But, that's part of what we want to be. Google's right outside of town.
Right.
We are a very technologically advanced city. At the same time, we don't have, we have a lot of less stuff than other people do. We don't have a Lowe's. We also don't have the traffic. Yeah. So you win some, you lose some.
Right.
But ultimately, I've lived a lot of places in my life, and this place, to me, it has everything. It has literally everything that my family could ever need to live, shop, work, enjoy ourselves. But we're only 30, 40 minutes from one of the greatest cities on earth. I don't need to be in Charleston on Tuesday morning. I want to be there on Saturday night.
Right.
And so for me, it's a perfect combo.
And in your role as Community Development Director, obviously you have business on one side and you've got family residential on the other. That's got to be sometimes at least a challenging balance.
You need to have one to have the other. I think the biggest question I've got in the last 5 years is, where's our steakhouse? I wish I had an answer for that. But, we need the rooftops to get that steakhouse.
Right.
And so it's like, okay, we need to grow. We know we're going to grow. The land is here. Even if I didn't want people to move here, the Constitution says you're allowed to use your land. So that's why it's our job to try to figure out the best way to guide that into something, a nicer form of mass development. That's what makes the job fun.
As you look down the road and even over the horizon, what are the next couple of things that you see in a positive sense that are going to happen in the town of Moncks Corner and for the residents there?
I think that as we grow, it's not just growth in terms of pure numbers. Our demographics have changed greatly.
Okay.
We have a lot more people moving in who have more money than this town has seen before. And we have these great jobs from Volvo and Boeing. We also have a lot of retirees from up north coming down, for better or for worse. And so what that does is it encourages a nicer level of retail and restaurant than we've had down here before. We've got Publix coming. They should be open sometime next summer. That's a huge thing for our town. We have thousands of people living on the southern border of town that have wanted a grocery store of any kind for 15 years. And to get a Publix, that's, a great grocery store. Chick-fil-A, Starbucks, those places that are a bit more on the higher end of that kind of restaurant. As these people move in who have the higher income, we get some of those more interesting things. And hopefully that will lead to, right now, Page's Okra Grill has a more or less permanent food truck up here. And the hope is that will become a full-time restaurant with a real structure there. We've talked to some other Charleston area restaurants that have, one or two in the Lowcountry and wanting to come up here. And so as you see places like that, to go from Hardee's to a Page's Okra Grill, that's a huge jump. And I think as a Publix, as a Chick-fil-A, that makes businesses say, oh, there's money up there. There's people up there who have more expensive tastes. And so I want to open my sushi restaurant up there. It's my job to say, hey, if you want to open anything in Moncks Corner, please give me a call. Find me at monckscornersc.gov.
And so let's take that a step further, if you can, and maybe finish the pitch. Small business is the backbone of our nation, of communities. So someone who's got a small business, thinking about starting a small business, why should they consider opening in Moncks Corner?
I think when you come to Moncks Corner, you can kind of get in on the ground floor a little bit easier than you can nowadays in like a Somerville or Goose Creek. We've got land. We've got a lot more open options than I think that you might be able to find as you get closer to the coast. And so you open your restaurant here today, or your store or whatever, you can save hundreds of thousands of dollars over being in, say, a Somerville. And yes, we're smaller, but 10 years from now, 5 years from now, we're not going to be. And so it's a great investment. And so for us, I will say, mom and pop businesses, possible franchisers, or just national chains, anyone who's interested in coming to town. I have 6 different chain businesses being constructed right now, which is just incredible for a town this size.
And from a residential standpoint, and this is my opinion or the way I think about it, and you tell me if I'm right or wrong, I want to buy a house. That house that's going to cost $500,000 in Mount Pleasant, that exact same house I can buy a little less expensively in Moncks Corner.
That is true. I always try to say that's not the sales pitch, but is part of the sales pitch.
Okay.
We always say, we want people to move to Moncks Corner not because it's less expensive, although that is definitely a selling point, but we want people to move here because it's where they want to be. It's a better quality of life. It's a great town to live in that happens to have some less expensive houses. Yeah, that $500,000 house, maybe $350,000 here. Our starter home prices have gone up considerably in the last 5 or 10 years. But at the same time, we don't want to be the town of last resort for anyone.
Sure.
Oh, I have to move to Charleston. Where can I live? No, I want people to come to Moncks Corner and say, wow, this is a cool place to raise my kids. This is a cool place to hang out on Friday night.
And for somebody who thinks not much happens in Moncks Corner, you can go on the town website and look at the events. You talk about the rec center. You guys continue to add more and more things for people to just come out to do as a community.
Absolutely. Actually, the last Friday of every month, we are starting a new series, Finally Friday. It's modeled largely on Third Thursday over in Somerville. We want people to come out 5:30 to 8:30, final Friday of every month. Come see our stores, come eat at our restaurants at a time when a lot of the stores may normally be closed, or you're looking for a family-friendly thing to do on a Friday night, and you haven't really thought, well, I've never been to downtown Moncks Corner. What's there? We've got a lot of stuff down here. Come down, eat at Page's Okra Grill. Come shop at Barron's Department Store or Corner Creations. there's just a lot of awesome stuff down here that people may not know about, including people who live in town because they live down by Cypress Gardens Road, which is 8 miles outside of downtown.
So the growth is here, but the growth is going to be continuing. What are you telling people as they come to your town, whether it's individuals or developers?
When a developer comes to talk to me, say Fox Bank's a wonderful subdivision. It really spurred our growth largely. I mean, they have like 3,500 homes down there. Fox Bank's been here for 15 years. They still have 1,000 homes left, but we already have one of those. Fox Bank is great. What are you going to do that's different to differentiate yourself from that? I don't need more of the same house. I want something different and interesting and inviting and something that you're going to say, oh, I didn't know they had that up here. That's different than what I'm seeing in other neighborhoods. I want to live there.
And for someone who is maybe a resident of the town that has input or something, or somebody with a business, they want to reach out to you and have a conversation, what's the best way to do that?
Honestly, it's go to our website. You go to monckscornersc.gov. Community development, and you'll find all the links for me. You've got my cell phone number. I'm available really anytime. You don't have to call me 8 o'clock at night, but I'll totally answer it.
It's just the kind of guy you are.
Absolutely. That's the kind of town we are.
There's a lot going on in the town of Moncks Corner, including that new Final Friday that'll happen on the final Friday of every month in downtown Moncks Corner. Doug Pullen, the Director of Community Development in the town of Moncks Corner, our guest on Lowcountry Forever.
The Charleston Radio Group is the Lowcountry. Every week, we highlight local organizations and events that are helping to make a difference here where we live. If you have a group, event, or an idea to feature on Lowcountry Forever, let us know. Visit lowcountryforever.com and click on our podcast link for contact information. Now, Lowcountry Forever continues.
This weekend, you could take your mouse with one click. You could help an amazing organization in the Lowcountry, one that you may not be aware of. Have you ever heard of Force Blue? I'm Brian Cleary, and today on Lowcountry Forever, we'll introduce you to this amazing organization, thanks to its co-founder and now Executive Director, Jim Ritterhoff. Jim, the obvious first question, what is Force Blue?
Force Blue is the only nonprofit organization in the world that retrains and redeploys former special operations veterans, all military-trained combat divers, to work alongside marine scientists and environmentalists on ocean and marine conservation missions. Navy SEALs, Recon Marines, Air Force pararescuemen, Army SF, real tip of the spear combat veterans who are now being repurposed to use their skills for the betterment of the planet.
It really looks like the best of the best there. Now, why did those two things come together? Because I think initially people would go, wait, that's two totally different things.
I kind of call it serendipity, a little bit of dumb luck. A very dear friend of mine who I co-founded the organization with, a gentleman named Rudy Reyes, pretty well known in the veteran community. He was a recon Marine, had done about 6 tours of duty in Iraq and Afghanistan, just had real difficulty in his transition out of the military. You hear these stories repeatedly, unfortunately, particularly in the special operations community, of substance abuse, divorce, things like that. I did not serve myself. I come from a military family, but I've been a passionate diver my whole life. I just saw a friend who needed some help, so we went diving together. I brought him down to our third co-founder's dive resort in the Cayman Islands, of all places. We spent a week diving together with Rudy, and we saw what it did for him. But it wasn't just the therapy of diving, because here's this trained combat diver who's been diving in the Euphrates River and all over the world, and very dangerous missions. But he never stopped to look around. And he saw the beauty of the reef. He saw just the danger, honestly, that our oceans are in right now, and said, we need to get more of my guys involved. And that's when we kind of put it together, like, look, you guys can be a great workforce to help the scientists who definitely need it. But then there's the other side of it, which is we can restore mission, sense of purpose, and sense of team to these guys who are kind of struggling when they get back and they've lost all that and they don't really know how to find their way in the civilian world. We can give them back that focus, that mission that's greater than themselves.
Well, I wonder if I could reach out for your opinion, because as you said, you didn't necessarily serve, but I think as an overall thought process, people may go, well, we understand, I haven't been in combat. I don't know what that's about, but a soldier goes there. You could understand the trauma. But I think people might be surprised that a Navy SEAL who is just thought of as the best, that they could be maybe even more affected. Is it because of the intensity of those missions?
I think that there's a popular misconception among civilians and among those of us who sort of hear these stories of veterans having trouble coming back from 2 decades of war now. And it isn't so much about the trauma that they experienced overseas. By and large, most of these guys, they signed up for that and they were trained for it. Obviously, there are things. But the bigger problem is kind of coming back and not feeling like the skills and the training that they received, that really was their life for a long time, doesn't fit anymore. And particularly these really up-tempo, high-speed, top-tier operators, you can't just say, here's a cubicle. Get on with the rest of your life. They're servicemen and women. They want to serve. So give them a mission. Make that mission about something greater than themselves. And what's greater than yourself than helping to save the planet? And then just give them the subject matter expertise that the scientists provide and cut them loose. It's mission therapy, right? It's not the diving. It's the diving with a purpose that is for something greater than themselves.
Today on Lowcountry Forever, we're talking with Jim Ritterhoff. He's the executive director, co-founder of Force Blue. Saving the planet, everybody wants to do that, obviously.
Sure.
But give us an idea of some of the things that Force Blue is doing so that will happen.
In the 4 years since we've become operational, we've been involved in a lot of operations, largely in the Caribbean and in Florida. We did some after Hurricane Irma hit Florida, and then Hurricane Maria hit Puerto Rico. We worked with NOAA to help repair coral that had been damaged by those hurricanes. We then got involved for about 6 months in a coral disease intervention operation, again, along Florida's coral reef. People don't realize it, but Florida's coral reef is the only barrier coral reef in the continental United States.
Wow.
We talk about it as a national treasure because it is, not just for the jobs and the revenue that it provides the state of Florida, but for the protection it affords the entire coastline. It's very important. So, and there's a disease that has been ravaging it for about the last 4 or 5 years. So we got involved with that. We've done sea turtle operations to study and rescue sea turtles. We've done marine debris removal. So we're really kind of expanding our portfolio of operation. But the important thing for your listeners to understand is that our marine resources across the board, whether we're talking about our oceans, our lakes, our rivers, coastal communities, are all under stress, let's say. We won't say threat, we'll say stress. Wherever you stand on the issue of climate change, things are changing. You know, the water's getting warmer. Ocean acidification is happening. That's causing some bad effects that we need to be mindful of, but also issues of plastic pollution, things like that. So what Force Blue likes to say is we are a very apolitical organization. We don't come down, we you know, by construct, we have both sides of the fence, which is another kind of the secret sauce of Force Blue, is we're able to bring people together that otherwise might not work together. But our attitude is like, look, it's not about who's to blame for the problem, what's causing the problem. It's like, what can we do about it? And we want to work with local communities, local stakeholders, wherever. You know, I'm so happy to be down here in South Carolina now. I moved here in December because this is a whole other area of operation for us, that very welcoming environment for veterans, just a lot of them down here with a lot of unbelievable environmental opportunities for us to get involved in. So, you know, it's an important fight that I think we need to pay more attention to as a society.
We're talking about Force Blue. It's an organization you may not be familiar with, which is why we're talking with the executive director and co-founder, Jim Ritterhoff. Now, Jim, there's a way right now that today people can help you because of a deal that's going on and a nomination that you've gotten and some recognition from Land Rover. Explain that for people.
We have the great good fortune of having been named a finalist by Land Rover USA in something they call their Defender Above and Beyond Service Awards. There are 7 categories of nonprofit endeavor that they look at. We're one of 5 finalists in the coastal and marine conservation category. We're up against some really great nonprofits, all of whom are worthy of winning.
Right.
Obviously, we have a little bit of bias and we want Force Blue to win, but the great thing is they've opened this up now for a 2-week public voting block where people can actually go to the website, the Land Rover USA website. It's very easy to find, and choose whoever the organization they want to vote for. And you can vote once a day, every day from now through May 3rd. And the easiest way, if people want to support Force Blue, is to go to our website, which is www.forceblueteam.org. And you'll see right there on our homepage a link to the Land Rover, the Above and Beyond Service Award competition. how you can vote. It's all right there on our website. If you believe in our mission, you want to play a part in its success, we ask everybody to go vote for Force Blue.
And on your website, there's a pretty amazing 3-minute video that you've got there that really says a lot.
It's part of a larger thing that we're very excited. It's been a very exciting couple of weeks for us. 2 years ago, we started a project with the National Football League in advance of the Miami Super Bowl in 2020, Super Bowl 54. It was the NFL's 100th season. Together with the Miami Super Bowl host committee, everybody thought it would be a great idea to outplant 100 pieces of coral onto a reef near Miami, sort of symbolically, in honor of the NFL's 100th season. So our veterans did that, but then an amazing thing happened. Those 100 corals spawned. So we realized, wow, we have a very fertile area here. Because that's unusual in such a short order. So we went back to the NFL and said, you know what? We want to build 100 yards, an entire football field of coral, restore on the ecosystem level a reef. Oh, by the way, the Super Bowl staying in Florida, it's moving to Tampa, which it did.
Right.
Well, let's make this a year-long effort. And they said, okay. And we got a grant from NOAA. And we made a documentary film about the entire project, the 2-year effort, and it's called 100 Yards of Hope. And it's world premiering this week at the NFL Draft in Cleveland. What you saw was the trailer that is on our website, but if folks go to 100yardsofhope.com, they can see the final 40-minute film. And it's really spectacular. It's a story of SEALs and scientists coming together with corporate support, companies that have never been involved in this world of marine conservation coming together to do some real good and hopefully create a model for restoration that'll be replicated.
So we're asking people to vote to support Force Blue this weekend, but you've got an organization that helps veterans, is looking to help save the planet. What other things can people do to help Force Blue?
Yeah, I just encourage everybody to learn about it. Visit our website, follow us on social media. We're there. It's just at Force Blue Team. You'll see some of the projects we're involved in. We're getting ready to do a summer tour throughout the state of Florida that's going to be engaging, doing community projects, things that volunteers can join us in. We did one before the Super Bowl in Tampa, which we called Dive 55, which was a marine debris removal operation. We had 55 volunteer divers in the water with our guys, just pulling lobster traps and old derelict nets out. But we're going to be doing that throughout the state of Florida this summer. I'm really hoping we'll start doing projects like that up here,
right,
the Carolinas. But just follow us, learn about us, reach out to me. We're a very small staff. We have about 4 or 5 people that work full time, and then we have our servicemen and women who are divers. So and take the time to learn about what's happening to the marine environment. I think we're a really nice entryway for people who aren't marine scientists, because our guys aren't marine scientists, right? We're kind of that entry-level way to understand what's happening to coral reefs, why plastic pollution's such a problem, why marine debris is so bad. You know, poke around our site and just learn about what we're doing, and take the time also to brush up on sort of what's going on with our veteran community as well, because we like to say we're not about veteran problems, we're about veteran potential. There's a need in our veteran community for positive, this sort of mission-based program.
And it seems like you've taken 2 unrelated problems, but brought them together and are working at solving both. It seems like that's a pretty lofty goal, but Force Blue is doing what they can in both areas.
The problems that exist in our ocean exist beneath the surface, right? By definition.
Sure.
We don't see them every day unless you're a diver, unless you're a fisherman, unless you are intimately, you're on the water every day. You don't know about it. Out of sight, out of mind, right? The problems that are confronting a lot of our veterans are beneath the surface. You look at our guys, they are the fittest, ready for action guys you'll meet, but there's problems beneath the surface, right? So there's a really interesting parallel between the work that we do and the sort of work that they need to do. And one of our guys said, look, when you've experienced pain and trauma the way we have, you need to help someone else or something else to heal yourself. And then, you add to that fact that they've spent their entire military careers fighting for communities that can't fight for themselves.
Right.
So now here's this underwater community that's at risk through no fault of its own, that can't fight for itself. And you tell them that and you explain it to them, and they understand it, and they're like, let's go.
You can make a difference with your support this weekend by casting a vote. It's easy. ForceBlueTeam.org. It's right there on the homepage. Vote Force Blue. Jim Ritterhoff is the co-founder and executive director of Force Blue on Lowcountry Forever.
Thanks for listening to Lowcountry Forever. If you missed any of this week's show, there's a complete recording under the podcast link at lowcountryforever.com. Lowcountry Forever is a public affairs presentation of the Charleston Radio Group.